Hello everyone. Today we will learn about Salesforce function, which has been introduced by Salesforce just few years back. Welcome to my channel. My channel's name is Easy Coding with Shantanu. So please subscribe my channel to get the latest updates with respect to that technology change. I like this thing most for my each session. So what is the tip for today? Can we translate validation rule error message? Yes, we can. You can go to setup, then translation, then select language. Then you can select setup component as validation error message. Then you have to select the object where you have written the respective validation rule with the validation rule error message. It means you can translate the validation rule error message in Salesforce. Okay, let's come to our agenda for today. First, we will learn what is elastic computing. Then we will go about what is Salesforce function. Then we will understand how or where Salesforce function is being deployed and run. And then we will discuss when we have to use Salesforce function. After that, I will show the quick demo. Then we can close the session with questionnaires. Let's move to the first topic. What is that? So that is for everyone. Welcome to the elastic computing. Now, before going to elastic computing, we have to understand what is compute environment. So compute environments contains technology infrastructure and software platforms which are being used to develop, test, deploy and run software applications. Now, what is elastic computing? Elastic computing helps you to scale the computing processing, memory and storage resources based on the demands or payload size. That means if the demand is huge, at that point elastic computing helps to increase your computer processing memory or the respective resources. If the demand is down, then automatically elastic computing will decrease the computer processing memory and storage. It will help to save or to control the hardware infrastructure, as well as it will save the cost from the customer side, and obviously it can help to increase the system performance, and also it can help or it can increase the governor limit as per each system. So in the real world, you know, the Amazon EC2 is the example of elastic computing, as well as Salesforce has the Heroku platform where we can use the elastic computing, or where we can create the computing environment with elastic computing. Now, what is Salesforce function? The first thing is that the Salesforce function helps you to compute complex business logic within the Salesforce trust boundary. That means when you want to calculate some complex business operation, or let's assume that if you want to upload some files, some big files into Salesforce, or you want to process big file in Salesforce instance, at that point we can use the Salesforce function. So Salesforce function helps you to compute complex business logic. Now, obviously Salesforce function runs into the secure compute environment. Then Salesforce function securely and seamlessly works with your existing org resources, making it easy to stay on the Salesforce platform. So we can use the Salesforce function to operate some operation which can be visible or which can be controlled by the Salesforce platform. So using Salesforce function, we can do CRUD operation, create, read, update, delete on the Salesforce records as well. Now it automatically scales with load like elastic computing, what just I have discussed in the previous slide. So it automatically scales when your demand has been increased or it will be going to down, and obviously it doesn't count against your Salesforce request limit. Now the most important thing is that in Salesforce platform or in our Salesforce org, the main language to get the data or to get the access for the main programming language is the Apex, you know, right? But Salesforce function is beyond that. Salesforce function, we can use the industry programming language. So we can use Node.js, we can use TypeScript, obviously we can use JavaScript, as well as we can use Java programming language to write or execute the Salesforce function. So that is a big advantage in the entire Salesforce ecosystem. Now Salesforce function in compute environment. Salesforce functions are deployed as well as run in the secure Salesforce managed compute environment. A single compute environment can contain a single project which can contain multiple functions and also can run in an isolated and dedicated environment. So we can run multiple functions in a single project and we can execute the function from Salesforce parallelly or in isolated as well as in dedicated environment. Currently, the infrastructure for Salesforce, what Salesforce has provided from the respective region, you can see from Virginia, USA, or Tokyo, Japan, Sydney, Australia. So those are the regions where the compute environment or where the Salesforce function component environment is being built. Now, when to use Salesforce function, that is the most important thing. First thing is that to perform heavy computing operation where we need more processing power. So let's assume that I want to process one big file or one big PDF file or text file, and I want to search from there the file. That is very difficult to execute in Salesforce platform, right? So for that we can help Salesforce function to search the big file or to upload the big file into the Salesforce instance, or to compute heavy complex logic, let's say for the inventory related calculations where currently ERP is doing, right? The inventory related functions, we can use the Salesforce function where the complex business operation needs. Now next thing is that obviously in Salesforce function we can control the huge data volume, correct? There is no governor limit. Let's say in our SQL we can fetch the records 50,000 by running on SQL in Salesforce in synchronous process, right? But in Salesforce function we can get more than 50,000 records by running SQL, because in Salesforce function we are using Salesforce SDK. If let's say we want to run a query or we want to fetch the data from Salesforce platform, at that point in time we have to use the Salesforce SDK, and under Salesforce SDK some libraries are there, just like the data API. Using the data API or using the context, we can execute the respective SQL as well as the DML operation. So definitely if we will reach the apex governor limit, just like that the CPU time limit error, at that point also we can use the Salesforce function to overcome the governor limit issue. Currently it supports DML operation in asynchronous way, that is we have to remember. And still if you want to do some business operation in the same transaction, you have to use the Apex class. not the Salesforce function. Salesforce function currently runs in the asynchronous process. Let's see the quick demo. So let's assume that I open one record, the account record in my Salesforce platform, where name is the Knowledge Studio. So for the sake of demo purpose, my requirement is that when that annual revenue is greater than 2000, at that point the rating would be hot. So let's say this is my account record and I am entering that annual revenue is 3000. Now save it. Now you can see annual revenue is 3000, the record is being updated, but the rating is not coming as hot, right? Now this exercise will be done by the Salesforce function. If I refresh this page, you can see the rating is hot. So if my requirement is that if the annual revenue is greater than 2000, at that point we will update the rating as hot, right? So initially when we have updated that revenue as greater than 2000, at that point the rating is not updated, right? Because Salesforce functions run in asynchronous process or in the asynchronous way at that point in time. So this is just like example how can we use the Salesforce function in the Salesforce platform. So in the going forward we will discuss about how to set up the Salesforce function, how to write the Salesforce function. This is the first session for today about what is Salesforce function. Now before closing the session, we will discuss some questionnaires here. My first question is that what is the maximum limit of Apex stack depth? So before answering this question, we need to know what is Apex stack depth. So what is Apex stack depth? Apex stack depth is nothing but how many times Apex class will be invoked during the DML operations. The same Apex class will be invoked during the DML operation. Let's say one trigger is there, you have written on Apex trigger, and due to that Apex trigger, your Apex class is called recursively. The same class is being invoked multiple times in the recursive way. So to avoid the recursive error, we can use the static variable, you know that, right? So my question is that what is the maximum limit of that Apex stack depth? So that is the answer is 16. So if you will get any error, this kind of error, that means your Apex class is being invoked greater than 16. The maximum, your Apex class is reached, the invoke of your Apex class that is reached until 16. Now my next question is that can we overcome the CPU time governor limit using Salesforce function? Now what is CPU limit error? Let's say you have written 3 or 4 for loops in a single for loop. So too many for loops are there in an inner for loop mode, okay? So that's why it hits the CPU time limit error. Now some certain condition we have to write that, on certain condition we have not followed the best practices. So we have to follow the best practices to avoid the CPU time limit error, obviously. Now if we reach something here to hit the CPU time governor limit, at that point we can use the Salesforce function to overcome the CPU time governor limit error. Thank you for joining the today's session. In the next session, we will show you how to set up the environment for running the Salesforce function. Thank you all.